Sans Pants Radio, Australia's most family-friendly podcast network.
This is Newsfighters,
where we fight the news
so you don't have to.
With Dylan Behan.
Yes, hello fighters, welcome to the Newsfighters podcast for today, February the 17th, 2021. I'm your host, Dylan Behan. Coming up on today's show, we're joined by ARIA award-winning comedy songwriter Wyatt Nixon-Lloyd, who's dialing in from Perth to give us a preview of the Western Australian election coming up on March the 13th.
Of course it's going to be highly popular for the WA Premier to tell the rest of Australia to get lost.
But first, the drought is over.
Marge! Coronavirus vaccines.
ARIA!
Yes, and the biggest news out of the TGA since they issued a compliance review of vitamin gummies.
The AstraZeneca vaccine has been granted provisional approval by the Therapeutic Goods Administration.
Yes, we finally approved the Aussie-made AstraZeneca vaccine. Truly the is Pepsi okay of vaccines. But don't worry, efficacy snobs.
The Eagle has landed. That's how the Federal Health Minister announced today's arrival of the first batch of the Pfizer vaccine.
The first shipment of COVID vaccines touches down in Sydney just after midday. A moment so significant, the Health Minister likens it to man landing on the moon.
The Eagle has landed.
Also, I think the moon landing comparison is completely fair because this is very much like when America triumphantly landed people on the moon, right behind Iceland, Latvia, Bulgaria, and about 60 other countries. But don't worry, jab fiends. The vaccine is being kept safe and sound under tight security.
From here, the vaccine load will be transported to a warehouse at a secret location in Western Sydney. A security blanket has been thrown over this entire operation. They've even asked for our chopper not to follow it through Sydney streets. They are that concerned about possible infiltration by organised crime.
Yeah, look, I'm sure that if somehow organised crime managed to steal the only pallet of coronavirus vaccine in Australia, we'd be able to track it down pretty quickly. The guy at your local pub trying to sell you a jab would immediately arouse suspicion, as would anyone trying to sell it on Gumtree at this stage. Mind you, they'd probably get time wasters only. The government was keen to talk up the achievement of importing these frozen vaccines.
This is an historic day for Australia. One of the largest logistic exercises ever undertaken in this country has been planned for, Mr. Speaker, and is now underway.
It's one of the largest logistics tasks Australia has ever undertaken.
Yeah, you do realise we've hosted the Olympics in Australia twice, right? And back then we couldn't just freeze the Olympic athletes and fly them over in a styrofoam box. And you do realise we import frozen ice cream from overseas all the time. Like, I literally spent all of lockdown last year eating Ben & Jerry's fish food on the couch. We do import things into Australia. It's what we're good at. Yes, so the vaccine is on track to start being administered next week. And don't worry, the government is going to ensure there's an orderly queue.
Aged care residents and quarantine workers will be the first to get the jab.
But also included in that first round of doses, the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister will roll up his sleeve for the Pfizer vaccine on national television.
So arguably Australia's least essential worker during the entire pandemic, Scott Morrison, will be among the first to get a COVID vaccine, jumping the queue over many elderly and vulnerable people. And he's going to do it live on national television. Now, they haven't worked out the hosts yet, but I think we'll be in for some sort of awful variety special like Hamish and Andy's Jab Year or The Masked Inoculator. Even then, Lindsay Lohan still won't know who Scott Morrison is. Meanwhile, Health Minister Greg Hunt got in trouble last week for releasing a Twitter post announcing the Australian government had secured additional vaccines, but with the Liberal Party logo on the image. It led to this heated exchange with Michael Rowland on ABC News Breakfast.
It's an Australian government announcement. Who paid for the vaccines?
Well, let us draw a clear distinction here. I know this is an issue for you. In many ways, you identify with the left. You do this a lot, and I respect that.
No, Minister. No.
You're open about that, and that's entirely a matter for you.
I find that offensive. I'm asking you. I'm exercised about what's
There's nobody
what's
who's
right
watching
and wrong.
who doesn't identify you with the left.
I'm exercised.
You should be open about that. I'm bemused, but I did predict to people that Michael Rowland would spend 50% of this interview on this topic rather than on the safety of vaccines, rather than on the rollout of vaccines, rather than on the protection of the Australian public.
I'm very exercised about that as well. But it just struck me as odd seeing and I'd asked the same question about the Labor governments, a party political logo attached to an Australian government announcement.
No, with great respect, this was a tile which acknowledged that, which had already been acknowledged entirely within the rules, entirely appropriately, and acknowledging that we come from that. But I win the bet with my office that you would spend 50% of this interview on that topic.
Okay, let's dig into this a little bit. So Greg Hunt there admitted that the Liberals were basically shitposting to Twitter to try and trigger and troll the ABC. Well, good job, mission accomplished. But hey, journalists, media, here's an idea. What if we just ignore the Liberal Party every time they try and troll us with an obvious breach of their ethical standards and not lower ourselves to playing their games? Because that's literally what they are. They're playing games with the media and then betting on how we'll react around their office. And then on to Greg Hunt's tactic there. Basically, he accused a journalist who asked him a difficult question of being a leftie. And it's certainly a tactic that I bet former Liberal leader John Hewson wishes that he'd thought of during his famous 1993 GST birthday cake interview.
If I buy a birthday cake from a cake shop and GST is in place, do I pay more or less?
I know this is an issue for you in many ways. You identify with the left.
Yes, and as for Michael Rowland being a leftie, well, he has such a reputation for being a recalcitrant leftie that Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has refused to appear on his show and be interviewed, except for the over 30 times he's been on it, including this fiery 2019 confrontation when Frydenberg invited Marxist, communist Antifa Rowland to his office to kick a footy around.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. We're heading to surplus, we know, so what about a bit of a stimulus package for the Carlton Football Club? We've seen how past treasurers have dealt with stress, so on that basis I know a good cigar store, Josh Frydenberg in Canberra, I could show you to this afternoon.
I'll leave them in the ashtray for now, and I've got a football in the office and kick that around from time to time, avoiding breaking any windows.
Good skills. Treasurer, thank you so much. Busy day.
Oh, my God, what a grilling. No wonder Frydenberg only agrees to go on Michael Rowland's show literally all the time. To other news now, and in Melbourne, Mamma Mia.
Here we go again. Here we go again. Melburnians dragged back into lockdown.
Victoria is now in lockdown take 3.
Yes, Melbourne in lockdown take 3, and everyone's hoping the director isn't Stanley Kubrick.
Stage 4 restrictions designed to be a circuit breaker after the highly contagious UK variant escaped hotel quarantine from the Holiday Inn.
Yes, everyone sing it. Hotel, motel, Holiday Inns weren't designed as medical facilities to contain highly infectious diseases. But don't worry, the Victorian government is making sure that all the blame for this snap lockdown goes exactly where it should. At a COVID-positive asthma sufferer currently in intensive care.
The outbreak is believed to have started by a COVID-infected man who used a nebulizer for his asthma while in quarantine.
The 38-year-old man blamed for triggering the outbreak by using a nebulizer in his room has now made bombshell claims of a cover-up, saying he was told twice by staff the device was allowed.
I get the feeling this poor guy asked if he was allowed to use his nebulizer, and the hotel quarantine staff were probably like, whatever, Trekkie, we didn't realise Supernova was back on. Nanu, nerd. Thankfully, though, in Victoria, not every industry is shut down.
We have been told the Australian Open will go ahead, but it will be under very different circumstances. The tennis players and their support staff are being considered essential workers.
Ah, yes, Australian Open tennis players are essential workers. Essential for ESPN and Channel 9's ratings. This lockdown, happening over the same weekend as Valentine's Day and the Lunar New Year, seems to have frayed the nerves of many Melburnians, including this woman.
What do I think about it? It's a crock of That's what I think about it.
Yeah, she was so unimpressed, she showed up on all 3 commercial networks' nightly news to say the exact same vox pop. Here she is on 7 News, 9 News, and 10 News last Saturday.
As a city soaks up its last moments of freedom.
What do I think about it? It's a crock of That's what I think about it.
We're going to see some big problems in the future.
What do I think about it? It's a crock of That's what I think about it.
And he's making my work quiet down as well.
What do I think about it? It's a crook. That's what I think about it.
Wow, it's almost like all three networks are so cheap, they only pay one uni student to go out and film all the news now. I wonder what that camera operator thinks about their news clips being used over and over again.
It's a crook. That's what I think about it.
There were also the predictable anti-lockdown protesters again, including this guy who urged everyone to go and do some incestuous activities.
Get out of your houses. Kiss your nana on the lips.
Yeah, who even does that outside of a pandemic? I don't know about you, I really don't want to see this guy's Tinder matches, that's for sure. Last week on the show, we had an in-depth look at the past year of COVID containment measures here in Australia. So this week I thought, what if we had a look at what the future might look like in 5 years' time? Hello, I'm Dylan Behan. Welcome to the Newsfighters News Audio Podcast for the 22nd of January, 2026. Proudly brought to you by Burger Rings Milk and Shapes Flavoured Shapes. In the news today, it was announced Melbourne and the entire state of Victoria will enter yet another snap 5-day lockdown. Their 74th lockdown in total and 6th so far this year. And unlike the 36th, 29th and 24th lockdowns, benevolent and omnipotent Australian Emperor Daniel Andrews, blessings and peace be upon him, has declared a 5% increase in the daily rations of proteinachinos. In sports news, the 3,000 athletes in Melbourne for the annual Nebulizer Endurance World Championships have been classified as essential workers and the competition can continue. In movie news, the latest James Bond movie, No Time to Die, has been pushed back by yet another 6 months. All three commercial TV networks went out on the street and asked people for their reaction.
What do I think about it? It's a crook. That's what I think about it.
All right, welcome back to Newsfighters. Joining me now is ARIA award-winning ex-Tonightly songman and director of the new show Whistleblower at the Perth Festival. It's Wyatt Nixon-Lloyd. How you going, Wyatt?
Yay! Thanks for having me on the show, Dylan.
Thanks, man. It's good to see your face again.
Yeah, I know. When I sent you that text, I realized the last time we texted was like the first episode of Tonightly. And since then, we were like...
Oh, really?
Well, we just have... Yeah, it says...
Haven't you
the last
changed
text I said,
phones since then? I'm about three phones since then.
The last text from you was about robots falling over. And you were like, we need more robots. I was like, I'm on it.
That's right. We used to sit next to each other and Wyatt would help me find wacky clips of robots. When I think in the first season we were making these hilarious breakers, which was just like, what's some funny clips we can put together? Robots falling over. Yes, great. I love it. And then eventually Ballard was like, look, I love your work, guys, but maybe a bit less of the robots.
Yeah, robots aren't news.
What have you been up to? I mean, since, I guess, Tonightly. You're living in Perth now. You were in Melbourne for a while. You were working with the project.
I actually went Melbourne and then I went to LA for 6 months and spent a stupid amount of money because the exchange rate was awful and came back to Australia just at the start of 2020 to save up more money. And then, thank God, I was out of America when COVID hit.
Jeez.
And so I've ended up leaving Melbourne as well, and I'm in Perth. So I've just been on the COVID retreat, one destination after another.
Yes.
And so,
New Zealand next.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Then like New Caledonia or somewhere, or Fiji.
Yeah, that's right. I'll end up in Greenland. Yeah, so I'm over in Perth and been very lucky over here. I'm working on a show for the Perth Festival, which was going to be the first international festival of theatre coming back. And then, of course, we have tomorrow we finish our 5 days of lockdown. And so the festival is going ahead in air quotes, but a lot of venue capacities are rapidly being reassessed. Right. So it's just like when there's an incredibly viral world virus and everyone... and your career is in live entertainment, it feels pretty crazy to be still a year on going, no, we can do live gigs.
Well, I mean, Perth has been like pretty clear run up till now. It's been, I imagine everything. I've been seeing like the clips of New Year's Eve in Perth were just like, what COVID? Everyone was just partying and dancing, and there've been clips coming from like Hot Tub Time Machine playing festivals, and it's like the land that COVID forgot. And then bang, it was a 5-day lockdown.
I think it's that classic wait a while thing, like we get COVID late. You know what I mean? Everything comes to Perth after everywhere else because everyone was still living in a pre-COVID world, and now I think we're definitely caught up to everyone.
But all things going ahead, tell us a bit about the show. The website describes it as Truman Show meets an escape room. Does that mean you can like press a button and have it rain on the cast whenever you want, like in Truman Show?
We have the concept of the show, which is stupid for COVID, is that the main character is an audience member. And so they come up and they're on stage in basically these soundproof boxes. We've got 4 soundproof boxes and they're all rigged with cameras and microphones. But it's just been an absolute nightmare of how do you keep someone 1.5 meters away if the box is only 2 meters wide? Like, it's been the COVID on top of the problem of doing a Truman Show live on stage has been an extra little aneurysm for us all.
So is it, do you select an audience member at random, like it's Price is Right?
Well, because of COVID, we have to, 20 people have pre-bought tickets to each night. So that's like, let's say there's 200 in the theatre, 20 of them buy an interactive ticket. And from those 20 people, we will select all our characters, right?
Yeah, and then there's the big fear, I imagine, like with improv, if you've been to any improv shows, you get someone up on stage and they just want to say racist or sexist or really juvenile things like poo-poo. And then you're like, oh, this is great. This show is a disaster now.
Yeah, and you've also chosen them. You're like, we're stuck with them for another hour. Oh, boy.
Oh, dear. Yeah, right.
But yeah, so it's a massive risk undertaking. And then it's just been compounded by the fact that we've had to compromise a lot of things based on COVID spacing and COVID safety. Like, there's no big group scenes where everyone has a spit orgy. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And actually, Dylan, it's going to come to Sydney.
That was my next question. You're coming around the country.
Yeah, so we have Melbourne and Sydney confirmed in the sense that venues have said, yes, we'll take it. But they've all said, can you give us a second to sort out our programming? So it might be 2022, it might be 2023, but both Sydney and Melbourne have said they want the show, so that's fantastic.
Look, hopefully you can tour and we can see the show without travelling interstate, because I don't think people will be doing that for a while. But how have things been in Perth? How has Perth coped with the lockdown? Was it a bit of a wake-up call?
Well,
People wearing masks for the first time. I saw everyone in Perth queuing up to panic buy, and no one was wearing a mask. I was like, this is very weird. They don't know how to do this properly.
Yeah, and I think what's also interesting is definitely amongst my family and friends, Perth and Melbourne have there's a lot of cross-pollination. And so there was a little bit of everyone in Perth being like, look, we're doing our own one. We're just like you.
We're big boys.
Yeah. Look, oh, wow, we ran out of toilet paper too. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Look, everyone's kind of loved it. They're like, yeah, it's pretty serious. We take COVID pretty seriously here. But I think what's pretty interesting is how WA at its core has always had a chip on its shoulder about being the one left out. And so this whole Mark McGowan acting out, it just feels like, of course it's going to be highly popular for the WA Premier to tell the rest of Australia to get lost.
Yeah, to lash out at Gladys and you don't know what you're doing. And then it turns out Perth, all the hotel quarantine workers are, I don't know.
Not wearing masks
and working second jobs and not getting tested. Yeah. And everyone's like, sorry? Who's telling who how to manage COVID?
That's right. But he's going to stomp it in at the next election.
That's what I was getting to. How's Mark McGowan polling over there? He's Labor, of course, for those of us who don't follow WA politics.
And pre-COVID, he was looking really shaky, to be honest.
Interesting.
How
long has he been in? Has he been in for a long time? Sorry, I haven't done my research.
He's got an election coming up. So he won the last election against Colin Barnett, who had wasted a lot of
So this is first term for him.
First term, that's right.
Gotcha.
First term. He was stuck with no money, right? And couldn't really fulfill a lot of things he promised. Because of just there's no money.
Typical Labor problem, promise a lot and then go, the cupboards are bare.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I think his success, Mark McGowan's success, is also a direct result of Scott Morrison's unwillingness to make any decisions. Because then when he steps up in this vacuum and starts going, well, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this, everyone's like, hey, look, someone who's decisive. And his popularity soars.
But all the states have had to step up. If Scott Morrison could overrule the premiers, who knows what state the country would be in right now? Would probably be wouldn't have had any lockdowns, maybe.
And I think exactly. We could be looking at a UK situation. What's fascinating is they've changed the leader of the opposition because no one wants to run against him.
Yes,
and
Poison
this
chalice.
new guy. Have you seen his policy on the environment?
No, he's a young guy, right? I don't know his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's come out and said, his name's Zach Kirkup, and he said, he said that by 2025, WA needs to shut down all its coal mines and go 100% renewable. And what's crazy is now the Labor government, which has already been pretty pro-renewables, investing in opening up new solar projects, investing in electric cars, has now had to tell the Liberal Party that they're too advanced on renewables. So it's a
different country over there.
Well, I think this young guy's come out and gone, look, let's just go for it.
Let's just throw everything at the wall. We got no chance of winning. Let's just do whatever.
But I think what's going to happen is there's no way they were going to win regardless of this policy. And then this policy will be tainted by, you tried that and you lost. But there's no way they're going to come up against Mark McGowan anyway.
Before you go, I thought it might be fun to play a song that you and Bridie did at the beginning of the pandemic. I think it was April or May last year. You guys did a song. Tell us about the song. What was it called?
What happened was we all got together at the start of the pandemic, Dylan, and you and me and everyone else, we thought, what if this is what brings us back to Nightly? And so we
did a little
half-hour pilot, and we shopped around, and everyone said, no, definitely no. And so it's just good going into a pandemic to have a reminder that your dreams are still crushed.
Yeah, no, people want to see Norman Swan reading numbers out every night. That's entertainment in April and May last year.
That's what Australia needs.
Yes.
And so we made this pilot, and we finished off the pilot, I think, on a song that going into the pandemic, one of the things we noticed was that you aren't going out as much, and so you also aren't missing out on other people going out. So we wrote a song about FOMO and how one of the upsides is that FOMO's gone with COVID.
All right, Wyatt, thanks for joining us. For everyone in Perth, the show is called Whistleblower. Where's it on? Where's it at? I've got 27th of February to 7th of March at the Heath Ledger Theatre.
Yep, that's right, and it's already sold out. So,
oh, really?
Sorry.
Well, get your tickets.
Yeah,
jump in your time machine and get your tickets from before it's sold out. So let's, Wyatt, thanks for joining us. Let's leave on the song.
Yep, thanks very much for having me.
Cheers.
Check it out.
Here it is.
I used to be affected really badly by FOMO. It's hard being on your phone, seeing everyone living their best lives when you're all alone. But now, thanks to the lockdown, things are different. Well, I used to get sad as I stayed at home and looked at social media on my phone. Everyone was partying and I was alone, but now that's all changed.
Well, the fear of missing out, well, it used to do my head. It used to get sad if I missed out on a birthday or a wedding. Even got jealous about my cousin's pole bear, and now that's all changed.
Why?
'Cause there's no FOMO no more.
Well, it's happening worldwide. There's no FOMO no more. Everyone's stuck inside. No FOMO no more. Well, I can't feel excluded. No FOMO no more. Until this lockdown's concluded. I used to get sad when y'all were in the the club getting lit, but now I don't mind it, not one bit. I just sit at home and I continue to sit, and I'm fine with that.
You used to worry about missing out on happy hour. Now I worry about missing out on home meal fire. Nothing to do but take a wank in the shower, and I'm fine with that.
It's fine, have a wank in the shower.
There's no FOMO no more.
Being jealous is taxing.
There's no FOMO no more.
Forced isolation's relaxing.
No FOMO no more.
Oh, now I can't be offended. There's no FOMO no more. Whoa, the lockdown is splendid.
No FOMO no more.
No FOMO no more. Yeah.
Alrighty, that's Newsfighters for today, the 17th of February, 2021. Newsfighters is written, presented and produced by me, Dylan Behan, for Sans Pants Radio. A big thank you to Wyatt Nixon-Lloyd and Bridie Connell for letting me use their song there. To support the show and hear the extended interview with Wyatt, or ad-free episodes as well as a monthly bonus episode, subscribe to Sans Pants Plus at sanspantsradio.com/plus. And now, for a behind-the-scenes secret you may not be aware of, many podcasts pre-record their episodes weeks ahead. Newsfighters isn't one of those, as we're a topical news show. So I'm going to take next week off to catch my breath and inhale a new bunch of wacky clips. In the meantime, feel free to catch up on some old episodes or follow us on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. In the meantime, keep fighting, wear a mask, wash your hands, and bye for now.
This is Newsfighters, where we fight the news so you don't have to.